Today is October 2nd, 2018. The first item on the agenda is to welcome, call to order. So we do have a guest tonight. I'd like to recognize student trustee Connor Clark from Nelson High School. Thank you and welcome. Another announcement, our dear friend Lisa has been going through the process of getting appointed officially the rep for her Autism Association. I got that right, didn't I? Yeah, good. But it's not official yet, so it should be tomorrow, maybe, certainly by our next meeting. So thank you for stepping up for that, Lisa. Appreciate your effort. So next up is approval on the agenda. Can I get someone to move that, please? Ellie, thank you. Seconder, Lou, thank you. Any questions or concerns on the agenda? Can I see a show of hands in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, so carried. Thank you. Next up, are there any notices of motion or reports to the board? Seeing none, we're on to our action items, starting with 3.1, which is the minutes of the September 11th meeting. Can I have someone move approval of the minutes, please? Rochelle, thank you. Seconder, Lou. Any questions or comments, errata to the minutes that anyone needs to bring up? Seeing none, so a show of hands to show approval. Any nays? Seeing none, so moved, or approved rather. Sorry? Yeah, well, she's next, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I'll leave it over to Mark to introduce our first speaker.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Maya Pachetti, who is our, I don't know how much longer we can call you new, but new superintendent of facilities. Maya comes to us from, you can come on stage anytime, has come to us from the Toronto Catholic Board, where she was also in the similar portfolio there. I think you're acting as associate director for a while, I'm sure, and other duties is assigned, as we all have. But we're thrilled to have Maya here. She is a trained certified architect, brings that expertise to the work, to the role, and has been acclimatizing herself since she started 5 months ago. Yeah. So I don't know if you can say you're new much longer, but so new to SEAC. We've had Jerry Cullen, our former superintendent, has spoken to SEAC in the past on some other topics, but Maya asked, I think last June, asked me, can I come and say hi to SEAC? Come and introduce myself? And I said, certainly. But I said to her, why don't you bring something that SEAC would be interested in? And so she's going to talk tonight about some of the AODA compliance work that's going on in schools, some of those projects, both past and upcoming.
Thank you very much, and to the chair, Chair Bartlett, and to the committee members, thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be able to show you some of the work that we've done this year through our school renewal and various other programs in terms of improving our existing facilities to address some accessibility deficiencies that we have. So just by way of introduction, as Mark said, I am a registered artifact. Yes, I'm a registered artifact. Registered architect. Most of my career has been spent in working on public buildings. I did a lot of community centers and libraries, working for an architectural firm in Toronto. I worked briefly for Toronto Community Housing and actually worked on providing some accessibility standards for some of the housing projects that they had. And then I moved to Toronto Catholic District School Board, which is 200 buildings of various ages. And as you can imagine, that also brought on a whole other education for me about some of the accessibility challenges with older school buildings. I have brought this to the ministry's attention that in many cases, the building code, which provides architects with barrier-free standards, is actually designed for adults. So when you make a barrier-free bathroom in a school, in particular an elementary school, it can be very challenging because you have students of various sizes. So though you meet the code from a barrier-free building permit point of view, you may not actually be serving your main clientele, which is your students. So that's always been a challenge for us with new schools, and just to say that I've learned the hard way that we need to find other ways to address that through the design of our new schools, for example, which have a very high standard of barrier-free access. So I've wanted an opportunity to show you some of the work that we've done this year. We have a pretty dedicated facilities department, and they do a lot of accessibility projects in our schools, as well as projects to address some program and special needs improvements in our schools. And rather than give you a spreadsheet, what we did is we put together some photographs of some of the projects that we do, and then I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And if the good thing about having such a great team, if I don't know the answer, I can certainly get the answer and forward it to you. So we call this slideshow a little bit excuse our mess, because this is the kind of work that we did all through the summer and in some cases into the fall as well. So there is sometimes a little bit of mess that happens in schools, but hopefully all for a good cause. So I will just start and hopefully hit the right buttons. So we begin with just a summary. So our school renewal budget that was approved by the trustees for the year 2017-2018 was about $43 million, of which by the end of the school year, that's June, we had already spent $28 million. And throughout the summer, we've completed more work into the fall. In fact, we should really update this slide, because I believe at this point we're really only carrying forward 45 projects, not 92. So that's shows you how busy we've been. Within that school renewal budget, as well as some of the school operations budgets, we do approximately 120 projects per year in our schools that are accessibility upgrades to our buildings. So that comes to about $8 million every year. And the range of upgrades can be from smaller projects. So for example, doing sidewalk transitions and sloping entrances at schools. Curb cuts. This year we did a fair amount of curb cuts and safe pathways to schoolyards. And exits from doors, so that there's ramps, barrier-free ramps to get out of the building at various doors. We also did a significant amount of elevator installations this year, and those are long projects. It's very difficult to do an elevator project in one summer. They usually start the design in the fall, try to go to tender in the new year, try to start the messy work in the summer, that would be the demolition, and then it takes time for the elevator to be built and then installed. So I'd say an elevator job on average takes 1 year to complete. We do a fair amount of barrier-free washrooms, and these would all be designed to the current code. So one of the things that I'd like to address for next year is that issue that I discussed, which is ensuring that the barrier-free washrooms we design, that there are some modifications that can be adjusted so that if you have smaller sized individuals who need to use this, they are not going to have difficulty with the current building code requirements for a barrier-free bathroom. The toilet, for example, is a very high toilet in the barrier-free bathroom under the code, and there are some things that you can do to modify that. So that's something I'm going to be working on with our staff to look into that. Quiet rooms, sensory rooms. We work very closely with the special education department and principals to ensure that these are safe spaces, but that they also meet the sensory needs of the students who are going to be using these rooms. Door openers. We do a lot of door openers. Outdoor play environments. Under the recent changes or amendments to the AODA code in the building code, public spaces need to meet barrier-free design standards. So this is going to change the way people install play structures in public spaces. And I think we're already ahead of the game. We've been doing this for a while to create outdoor spaces that are accessible for all levels and sizes of kids and abilities of kids. So these are two examples of outdoor learning commons. This is the CPP project at MM Robinson, and I don't know if any of you have had a chance to walk over there. Unfortunately, this slide that's next to it is not very clear, and I'm not sure because it's a PDF that I can zoom in. But some of the features that we're looking to put into that project, don't know if you're able to see the screen a little better than I am from here, but there are going to be some interactive features, including some gardens that are in boxes, planter boxes, bench seating, just a variety of tactile sensory objects in that play environment for the kids.
Yeah, Maya, we did share quite a bit of the design work here last May or June as well.
Oh, great. And this is another CPP Outdoor Learning Commons area that is, I don't know if they've started construction on this. This is for White Oaks. So again, it's incorporating barrier-free path of travel, but also tactile differences between that play area. And in that lower right-hand corner slide, that's a raised planter bed. So the idea being that, that things are at different heights and different levels of accessibility. And I think that's it for our slides. So just to conclude, we have a capital renewal request process that we certainly do a fair amount to advertise amongst principals that they can submit capital requests. And from that, we look at what projects need to be prioritized every year and what work we can do within the available budget. We also have a spec ed, we call it spec ed allocation of about $200,000 per year in the budget. And this is to do work that is related to life skill renovations, quiet rooms, adding child lift apparatuses, and other sort of minor room alterations. And we have an accessibility allocation of about $200,000, and that's for making the building accessible. So addressing things like automatic door openers, barrier-free ramps, other accommodation devices that would allow travel through the building. The Close the Gap funding, which the board, I have to say, it's a very impressive program. It was one of the things I remember when I was looking into Halton. I thought, wow, that's a very, very neat program. Close the Gap has put in several elevators, and we have 8 elevators that we are looking to do in the next year at 8 different schools. So that's funded through Close the Gap. And we probably will be doing a couple more CPP spaces, but I don't really have any of those details yet, as they tend to come a little bit later on. So that's sort of the extent of our funding and opportunities to do building accessibility upgrades at our buildings. So I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you very much, Maya. That was a very nice presentation. Allie, you're first on the list, please.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I actually have 2 questions. The first question is, I'm a big fan of the photos, and because it tells a really nice narrative. Are the photos located on the school, or not the school, sorry, the board Twitter or the website, so that people can actually see the updates as well? And then the second question is about the Learning Commons, but we can get to that in a sec.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Actually, we're in the process of updating our facilities webpage to do this sort of thing, to provide more photos. And Trustee Chowdhury, you actually gave me this idea 2 weeks ago, which is, why don't our facilities staff take more pictures and either tweet them out or have that information more alive and accessible. So we're actually working on that right now with our communications department. I think that's a great idea. We are also looking at a way to put our renewal list up on our website, but we have to find ways to make it AODA compliant, because right now it's just a big list. So we're working with communications on that.
Great, thank you. I do have some good ideas once in a while. Through the chair, the second question is regarding the Learning Commons. So in my visits of all the different schools within my wards, I've noticed a few schools have these learning gardens, but the funding for the learning gardens are from the parent councils. And so right now, as the parent councils are ramping up, a lot of them are committing thousands of dollars to get these learning gardens done. Are these learning gardens different than the Learning Commons, or the same idea or same concept?
The Learning Commons, typically we use the term Learning Commons for what used to be called the library inside the building. So the learning grounds outside, yes, many of those projects are funded through parent funds, although a fair amount of those projects, especially if they're in kindergarten spaces, were part of the full-day kindergarten rollout. And we usually have a little bit of money in the renewal budget to keep doing more of those, because we want to ensure that there's in every elementary school has some kind of naturalized outdoor learning environment. So that's what those learning grounds are for. And if we can get grants, sometimes we're able to secure grants for those as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Lisa, were you on the list, or did you just take yourself out?
I know.
Do you have a question to ask? Yeah, go ahead then, please.
Hi, Maya. Thank you very much for the presentation. My question is, what constitutes like qualifications for a school to get an outdoor, or to have an outdoor learning center or garden or what have you?
Well, as you can imagine, we have limited funds, so it is always a bit of a challenge to do these projects at every school. A fair amount of our schools do have, in fact, a significant amount of our schools do have outdoor learning or naturalized play environments. It's really a matter of the principals drawing attention to this is something that they like in the school. And as I said, every year there is an opportunity to submit a request through the Capital Renewal Request Program for that kind of a project. We support that project. We have someone in-house on staff who works with schools to help develop that. We work with the Evergreen Foundation to develop some standards. We will also sometimes go to landscape architects to help us develop the design and the specifications. So it's really just a matter of through the principal getting on the capital renewal request.
Okay, I do have one question. You'd mentioned about $200,000, I'm assuming annually, for student services. Could you expand a little bit more on what that entails, or how that's different than regular capital improvements?
Sure. Thank you very much, Chair Bartlett. So we have $200,000 a year in the school renewal. Actually, I believe it's in the school renewal operations budget, and it is for improvements to the school from a program or accommodation point of view for special needs. So, for example, renovations to a life skills kitchen, or renovations to create a quiet room, adding perhaps a child lift in the school. So something that would not normally fall under the building code in terms of making the building accessible, but more related to student needs and accommodation for students in the building. Then we also have $200,000 set aside every year to do accessibility upgrades. And those would be for renovating ramps. Quite a few of our older schools have ramps that don't meet current code, or we don't have a ramp in the school where we should have a ramp. Adding more automatic doors, room alterations that can accommodate barrier-free design. So that's more, I don't know how, it's sort of more technical from a building point of view than the first one.
Maybe I'll add in that I think that first one is really about supporting making program more accessible for students, whereas that second fund is more about making the building more accessible.
Thank you both. Then I have a short follow-up question. I realize you're new in the job, but do you find that two allocations of $200,000 is sufficient, or historically has it been low?
I don't think you're ever going to have enough funding for this. But I will say that this amount of money is not the only thing. For example, we do washroom upgrades as part of general renewal of the building, and within that we will add a barrier-free washroom if the school doesn't have it. So there are other ways that we fund accessibility upgrades to schools, including, for example, the Close the Gap funding, which is to add elevators to schools. Those are significant projects to do. So this board has found another way to fund those, but no, it's not a lot of money. I don't think you'll ever have enough money to upgrade all our buildings, and that's the challenge we're all facing, to see what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of meeting the AODA compliance requirements.
Good.
Maybe if I could add that, Sean, who you met earlier, Sean Marks, who's the new Jane, I'll only call you that one, not many more times, Sean, but Sean, as our spec ed principal, works with one of Maya's staff, Terry Janik, in facilities, and they partner in looking at what are the accessibility needs in our schools for our kids. They can, get into the real detail of that, knowing, for example, that a student who's maybe transitioning from a K-5 school into a 6 to 8, they've had these accessibility needs met in that K-5 school. Now we know they're going to be going there in maybe a year or two. What do we need to do to that grade 6 to 8 school to make sure it's fully accessible as well? So that kind of work, as well as, we need an opener on this door right now, that school down the street, et cetera. That kind of detailed work they do, sort of school by school, student by student, to make sure that detail is really focused on the needs of those students. So they do that, and this is my 5th year now in this portfolio, and I don't know of a year when we've ever said, we can't do that for that student. Every year we've been able to fund and make the renovations needed to accommodate all students. So I don't know if we have to go looking for the money elsewhere some years. We might, but we've never had to say no. We've been able to do the work we've had to.
Oh, that's all good. I thank you very much for your time and a very good presentation as well. I agree with pictures, because we got 20 pages of text in there. It still wouldn't describe what we're seeing. So thanks very much for that. Appreciate your time. Next is an update on the Working Together document. So I'll hand that over to Mark to introduce, please.
Thanks. So this is some work that we've been talking about for a little while here, I'd say, at SEAC. And so we've had a group of staff come together working on this. We did have Sherry Foster on this for a while. And then we had staff dig in over the summer to do some specific work. And so Sean's been working with that group and has come to share tonight. So, and maybe I'll start by saying that when this group first got together, we talked a lot about what could this be? And we sort of developed this grand, wow, we could do this and this and this kind of approach to it initially. And then we looked around a lot at other boards and said, okay, so what do they have and what's out there and why? So the ministry has a guide, if you want to call it, of what boards must provide to parents in terms of the information that we've typically had in our working together doc. And as we looked around at other boards, they've all got the same because it's pretty prescribed by the ministry. And so we looked at what's within that and then what sits outside of it. What other things are there for parents and sort of the pros and cons of trying to put it in or keep it outside. So that work went on for a while. And so Sean is coming with what we decided should be inside that document, which isn't too different, but then where we might be going with some of those grander things we would like to do for parents that we think should really live on our website there as resources for parents. So hand it over to Sean.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Unfortunately, I don't have pictures. This is a text-based piece. But again, thank you for the chance to present the revisions we've made to the working together document. It is still in draft form. There are things that we are working with our communications department to make better. They are short-staffed by 2 right now, which is making it challenging to get it online. But we are hopeful that will happen soon. We do have, and I believe you've received a draft copy in PDF format already. So what I wanted to do is highlight some of the changes and revisions we've made for that. As Superintendent Zonneveld explained, we did look at many different boards across the province and see what they had presented. And there was a range starting at just 4 pages, basically what the ministry has outlined as your bare minimum. And ours is not that format, but we did see higher range documents. And I think ours is in line with those groups of schools that are out there. So the original document that is still online and available to parents is going to be altered or updated as soon as we get the communication team to put that online. Some of the highlights, if I can sort of give a framework for the revisions, they're in 3 parts. One is in content, so where we've changed the content. One is in format, so how it's going to look based on the previous document. And then finally, in how we're going to roll it out. That's not really a change in the document itself, but in the procedure for how parents can access it. So in terms of content, one of the straightforward changes is in the exceptionalities that are listed. The ministry puts out the exceptionalities, and we took that straight from the document. But you'll notice between the current document and the one that's in draft form, there's a significant amount of content change, addition in learning disabilities. Felt that in our board, based on the steering committee review, that was something that we wanted to focus on as well. So there's clear greater content in the learning disability section, and you'll notice that between the 2 documents. Also, tied into the structure, but in each of the areas for the individual education plan, the IPRC process, and the school resource team process, there's a significant change in the content, but that's also driven by the format. In the current document, as it's posted on the website, each one of those areas is written up in basically 1-2 pages outlining what the process is, what it's meant to be. This is all tied into the special education plan that the board provides. It's more of a summary for the parents. What the new document has done, and is consistent with some other boards and why we adopted the change, is those 3 areas are broken down into, if I can read to it, what is, who's involved, when is, what role do parents, what role do students have, what happens during, and what happens after. So if you look at those three areas, IEPs, IPRCs, and SRTs, they all now have those new sections, which I think you'll find is a far clearer outline for parents when they're reading it to understand what their role is in it, what they can bring to the table, what to expect when they arrive there. This comes from the feedback we received from the parent polls during our review as well. So we feel that this is a fairly substantial change, not only to the content and the clarity of it, but also the ease of format and the access for parents. And we noticed in some of the other boards the way it was done, the headings in these sections are written as questions. And we felt that these were the questions parents would be asking. So rather than a statement, it's a question with the answers beneath each one. That brings us to the rollout. Right now, obviously, it's just in a PDF format in individual documents. We are in contact and working with the communications department to get it on our board website. We would like it similar to how you see the SPED plan rolled out, but with the links right inside the document rather than a click and download that you'll see it right in the HTML format on the website. Within each document, so a subsection, IEP, IPRC, those ones, the introduction, there are hyperlinks that direct the reader to other areas of content that are relevant in the section. So in the IEP, when it discusses exceptionalities, there's a link directly to the page that identifies the exceptionalities as per the ministry. There's also links that direct parents back to the ministry document themselves so that they can read further in there. This isn't meant to be a completely comprehensive document. It's meant to be an ease document for parents to have access to what is happening and how to support their children and to understand the processes that our board has. From that, we'd also like to, currently the document is a single bound piece of paper, 10 pages, which we would still like to have in addition to the electronic, but we've also noticed in other boards they have them as individual pages so that schools can hand out as if the parent is coming in for an IEP, they're already familiar with the SRT process, the school can hand just a single page outlining what the IEP process is, rather than inundating them with multiple copies of the same thing. The layout and such would be, again, communications, putting the Halton format to it. We've also had several CERT networking, special education resource teacher networking sessions, and we've highlighted this document to be handed out at every opportunity for parents coming to SRT. That was clearly indicated during the steering committee that many parents weren't even aware of the document, so it is a big push from our department to make sure that our staff are indeed handing it out to them, directing the parents to where they can access it, and making sure that once we have the paper copies, getting them to the schools. One of the issues, obviously, that we need to work through is the AODA compliance. Some of our text has graphics in it. They're just tables and such like that. So they need to make sure that those are compliant, and they're working through that process as well. And we're continuing to work with them, and we are looking to have that up and running as soon as possible. The content is there. It's just the formatting at this point. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Trustee Collard, go ahead, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the changes that you've made. I just noticed one thing. There's no page numbers, so it's really hard. But at the top of the page, it says, what happens after the IPRC has made its decision and you are not in agreement? I think that and should be changed to if, because we don't want to presume that they're going to not be in agreement. I think it would be better if it was if. It's towards the end of the IPRC section.
Thank you.
And our intent of bringing this with you tonight, before it's in a final form and on the website, is to get your input, such as Trustee Collard has done, so that if there are small pieces like that, or there's some big content or layout or other ideas that you would like to share with us for us to consider, we'd like to hear that before it moves over into communications and they really start doing all the formatting and layout and all those kinds of things that they'll do with it. So it doesn't have to be tonight. You can, if you have time to read it through and want to give us more feedback at a later date. Like I said, or Sean said, I think our communications department that has 4 staff only has 2 right now because of some vacancies that have occurred. So they're a bit behind in terms of getting things, the work done and posted. So the benefit to us is that we have some time. So if there's feedback you'd like to give us, we'd be glad to hear it.
Thank you, and I did note that piece as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mark. I was about to ask if we could have a bit more time because I don't know if everyone's had a chance to read it or not. Did you want to say something, Diane? Go ahead, please, Ms. Van den Bosch.
Thank you. Thank you for presentation, Sean. I have a couple of questions. One is just simply, and I can't give you a page number, but the title is, what is a school resource team?
Yes.
And the definition under that is a school resource team is a school-based team that meets regularly. I was always under the impression that the school resource team was the school team plus board personnel, such as consultants, psychologists. So the difference between a school team and a school resource team.
Yes, a school resource team. The ministry doesn't identify school teams specifically as something that's mandated. The school resource team is. So we haven't identified in this document school team, only the school resource team, which I believe was in the original document as well. I don't believe we outlined the process for school team because each school does that based on their own schedules. But the school resource team is made up of school personnel plus, you're right, external personnel.
Can I have a clarification on when school personnel are expected to provide parents with the working together document?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Yes, can I have just clarification on when in the process school personnel are expected to share with parent the working together document, either by handing them a paper copy or by telling them where to find it on the website?
The first absolute moment would be when they are invited to an SRT. So that if that is the first point of contact that the school or the parent has with the school with regards to the process, then it would be then. But if they're having conversations in advance, the principal could certainly give that information in advance to coming to an SRT. It would be based on when they have that first interaction and need. So it could be through the CERT or it could be through the administrator.
I think in the past that we've had direction from SEAC. Certainly you've had direction from Learning Disability Association of Halton that parents need to have this document as soon as the school has concerns. So as soon as the child is being talked about at school team and there are concerns and they're brainstorming, it would be a good idea. I mean, you should have the parent on board by then, and then it would be a good idea to provide a copy at that time. And that's what we certainly encourage to happen.
I believe in addition to that too, when we have our K-3 meetings as a board, when we meet parents and invite them to kindergarten evenings and that, part of the process is to introduce them to the student services department, what we offer, and that would be an opportunity as well.
Anything else, Diane? Good, thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Collard.
Thank you. Through you to Sean. In the past, and I'm going back quite a number of years now, they used to give out the working together document hard copy to every single kindergarten parent. And I know that we don't do that anymore, and it would be very cost prohibitive for us to do that. But I'm thinking that perhaps upon enrollment at a school, parents would be given a link to the document, and it could be maybe perhaps included in the September newsletter from the principal, the link. It doesn't cost us anything to provide the link. more is better, and I would like it to be like front page so that parents are aware of this. We have a really high percentage of students that have special needs, whether they're in grade 2, grade 6, grade 12, when it's noted, and making sure that parents are aware of the working together document when they get themselves into a situation where they might need it, or not get themselves into it, but would be good. I can't say enough how people don't pay attention until they need it. And so the number of times where it's presented to them is important. Presenting it often is good.
Thank you. It is certainly our intention to get it out there as much as possible and to let schools have this link on their websites as well. Thank you.
Trustee Chowdhury, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through the chair. The question I have is, thank you for this great work, by the way, first of all. Who initiates the SRT process? Reading through it earlier this afternoon, is it always the school, or can concerned parents initiate the SRT process as well?
At any point during the process, the parents can initiate. They can bring their concerns forward as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any further questions? No. Well, Sean, thank you very much for that. I do like what I'm hearing, especially with the new format and the idea it's easier, more accessible, easier to read. Sounds great. Thank you. And I'd suggest, should we send all of our feedback through Mark? Does that sound good? Or to Lorna? Yeah. So if you have further comments on either the content, the grammar, the structure of the document, please send them to Lorna, and she'll collect them all and pass them on to Mark and Sean. Okay? Okay, next on our agenda is just a little overview of the new SEAC committee process. Mark's going to start us on that, and I'll chime in on a bit from time to time. As I mentioned in our last meeting, we are coming to the end of our term with SEAC, and with the municipal elections, we'll have a new board of trustees, and the trustees will then strike a new SEAC committee, and we'll be meeting again in January. So I'll turn it over to Mark, and I'll jump in when necessary.
Thank you. So this only happens every 4 years. So this is a committee of the board. So when the board changes, therefore a new SEAC has to be formed. So this SEAC as a group will continue into November, because the current board, with the election on the 22nd of October, will continue to meet until the end of November. That's when that term ends for that board. So this SEAC continues into November as well. So we'll have one more meeting after this. And then when the new board forms, this SEAC is no longer and needs to be reformed. So that process, there's a couple parts to it. Number one, the new board of trustees all express interest and work together to determine who will sit on the various committees of the board. So SEAC is one of those, but there are many others that SEAC members sit on. So all of that is determined, and you know that there are 2 trustee reps and 2 alternates. So when those roles are established, then some of the work that goes on, number one, is coming from, on behalf of the board, coming from me will be an invitation to all of the associations represented here and others that are interested to submit names of representatives and alternates that those associations would like to see as members of SEAC. So all of those come in from the associations. And then we also advertise, typically through the local papers, but perhaps through our communications department, we might be doing some of this through social media as well. This is, as you know, evolving territory online for us, but certainly putting the call out for members at large. So the bylaws, if that's the right word, for our SEAC is that we can have up to 12 associations represented on SEAC. Those associations have to have a provincial body for which they are associated with. So you can't have something that's a Halton only or an Oakville only group. It has to be connected to the larger provincial organization. So those groups are welcome to submit. And any representative, the criteria is the same as for becoming a trustee, that you have to be old enough to vote, you have to be 18 years or older to be a member of SEAC, and you have to reside in Halton. So as long as those criteria are met, your name can be put forward as a representative from that association. So those names come forward, and then also those interested in being members at large can put their names forward as well. And our process has been for selecting members at large that we approach it pretty much like a job posting. So those members who are interested, those members of the public would submit an application, which would typically include a resume and a letter of interest. And then we select from those to, I say we, it's been in the past myself and the trustee reps work through those to determine candidates for an interview, and then from that paring down, select, and we can have up to 3 members at large as part of SEAC. So as you can appreciate, between the forming of the new board at the beginning of November, trustees determining who's going to be on what committees, and then our process of working through that, to get the members at large and the members of the associations, that takes time. And the timing that we're hoping to meet is that by, at the latest, the second meeting in January, that there are two board meetings per month, that by the second meeting of January, we would have those new members affirmed, approved at the board table. And then we would, we've got a tentative date for a orientation session for the new SEAC at the end of January. So, oh, and sorry, and also should mention in there is that once the new SEAC is formed, which is our first official meeting as a new SEAC after the orientation would be the first meeting of February. In that meeting, because we'll talk about it in the orientation, in that meeting then also would be the election for chair and vice chair, which is those are annual positions. So I think that's the whole process. I'm looking to Jason and any others, if there's something I missed or if they have questions of clarity. We have some questions there.
Yeah, I see Trustee Collard is on the list first. Go ahead, please, Amy.
Thank you. Yeah, just a couple of things. The members of SEAC must be also Canadian citizens. And we had some discussion about 6 or 8 months ago about bringing students onto our SEAC. And of course, they would not be 18 years old, or usually would not be 18 years old, but we value the student voice, and there will be a process that will need to be put together for making that happen. And I've had a conversation already with our student trustee who's present with us this evening about making sure that process happens in a timely manner so that we can get a student voice on this committee.
Thank you, Amy. Trustee Reynolds.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm just wondering, in terms of the onboarding for the new SEAC, is there a provincial workshop or provincial seminar that's planned for the spring that perhaps we can know about? So certainly put that on people's radar.
So the province has, in my time here, did organize if you want to call it a conference for SEACs across the province. I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, I think, we came together. they provided funding to boards to help people with transportation and accommodation, those kinds of things from a distance. So I thought it was a great event, and there was a lot of good learning there for SEAC members, but they've only done it once. So I'm not sure if there's interest again. We'll have to see. There is a PAC on SEAC, and can someone remind me what PAC stands for? Parent Advisory Committee. So that's a provincial group that organizes, and we've presented materials from PAC before here. That'll be part of our orientation that we do at the end of January. But there are some really good resources provided through PAC that things like some good orientation packages, also information on legislation, on various organizations in the province, et cetera, is all part of that PAC information. So we'll be sharing that through the orientation process. But no word from the province anyways of an organized learning opportunity for SEACs.
I'd just add to that, and if I recall correctly, when the province did put on that seminar, they allowed SEACs, I think, to nominate only 1 or 2 people at most to attend. So it wasn't an en masse training for SEACs. It was only 1 or 2 reps from each SEAC.
Right.
So, was there anything else, Trustee Reynolds? Okay. Tammy, go ahead, please.
Requirement is to be a resident of Halton. Do your taxes have to be going to the Halton Public Board in order to be on the committee?
I believe so. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if we have a habit of checking that, but we've certainly asked when members have been nominated by their associations, we've asked those questions.
Anything else, Tammy? Okay. Yeah, the only thing I'd add to what Mark had said is that our first meeting in the new year, once we go through the orientation process, is to elect a new chair and vice chair. So in that initial meeting, it will actually be started by Mark, where then whoever is being nominated, and you can nominate yourself. It's not a formal process in that sense. And then it's a vote, and then the chair takes over that meeting, and the next step is to elect the vice chair. So that's the procedure for the first official meeting after the orientation. There are also, there's PAC on SEAC online resources. There's also at least 2 Ontario government websites on what SEAC is, what it does, how it's supposed to operate, and so on, that are guidelines for every SEAC across the province. So there's plenty of online information for any new members or those having second thoughts, thinking, am I in the right place? Sure, you can read that and it'll tell you all about it. But yeah, go ahead.
So maybe the last thing I'll add is that we've talked here many times about how to get more representation from various parent community organizations on SEAC, and I know this has been a challenge. Sometimes we know parents with connections in other groups, sometimes we don't, but certainly we've talked in our agenda meetings about the value of having as many voices here, representative of as many parents and families as groups as possible. So if you can get out there and make connections and beat the bushes at all. I think we have 5 associations represented right now. Some SEACs are smaller in the province, some are larger, but we'd certainly like to have more voices here if we can. So anything you can do to roust up the interest and the participation would be great.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mark. And I would also add to that at least I'd made the conscious decision not to pursue new associations over the last couple of months, simply because they'd be coming on board for 1 or 2 meetings and then start the whole thing all over again. So I would suggest to whomever takes over the role of chair and vice chair come January, February, that be a important order of business to get some more associations back to the table, particularly FASD and a couple of the groups that we used to have here, like Easter Seals, mental health, CAMH, and so on. Sorry. And voice, yeah, as well. And we also used to have a rep from Tourette's Society, so it'd be good to get all those people back to the table again. Okay, so next on our agenda are questions from the public. Do we have any? No. Don't think so. For the benefit of those viewing online, to the thousands lined up at home to watch, you can submit your questions to Lorna Goodrow by email. The email address is goodrowl@hdsb.ca. And if that comes in shortly, we'll try to answer it tonight. If not, we'll answer it in our next meeting. So next on the agenda is SEAC discussion and question period. Speakers list is open. And we'll start with Diane. Go ahead, please.
LDAH is going to host in the next couple of weeks an all candidates meeting for candidates and trustees to let them know about learning disabilities and also to let them know what we're all about and what we do. And one of the candidates has come back with a question to us that we can't answer. And we asked LDAO if they could answer it, and they don't have an answer. So I thought I would bring it here to see if we had an answer here. So the question is, do we have any research correlating the presence of an EA with success for a child with learning disabilities? That's what we
Great
said. That's
question.
what we said.
Yeah. I'll say right now, no. Be interesting to dig into. I think more broadly, there is research out there that looks at the correlation between support and, if you want to call it, achievement or success. I couldn't quote any of it for you now, but I think there is some of that out there, and there are. What I've been aware of is that it's not necessarily the more support, the greater the success. That, and I'm talking broadly about students with special needs, right? That, and we've talked here often about I think everyone's desired outcome for our students, you know, the long-term goal is independence, right? So that, you know, our students can thrive without that need for whatever that support looks like. So how you get there is another conversation, right? But that we should be striving for more and more independence, therefore less and less support. So I do recall that from the research that I've read, but specific to LD, if you find it, love to see it.
Yeah, go ahead, Diane.
I'm hearing a comment from parents that really concerns me, and that's that they're hearing from school personnel that their child doesn't fit Halton's criteria for an exceptionality of learning disabilities. And of course, my answer is Halton's criteria is the ministry criteria because there's nothing separate listed in the special ed plan. But I'm wondering what staff are meaning and what staff are hearing. I personally haven't had an opportunity to ask that question, but I'm getting it via parents.
So yeah, I'd love to hear more. If you can give me, you know, we can have another conversation about if it's specific to some schools, because we'd certainly like to make sure the staff there fully understand PPM 8 and the expectations there of the ministry, because our expectations are the same. Sometimes there's confusion between diagnosis and identification, right? So, and I know that those, even the fact that there's a D in both can confuse people a bit, right? They mix the words, but we're talking about two different things there, right? So because a diagnosis done by a practitioner, in this case, psychologist, doesn't necessarily match PPM-8, right? So those, so that applies to a number of other areas, right? So that could be some of the confusion, but I think we're continually messaging this to staff because PPM-8's been out for a couple of years now, right? And we've aligned our descriptors with that. So if there's more detail you can share with me afterwards, that'd be great.
Great. Thank you, Diane. Was there anything else? Okay. I was thinking about your first question and your immediate response, and I don't mean to try to be trite or belittle the importance of the question, is like, does an EA help a child with LD? Does water flow downhill? Of course, but how much is enough? And it's always hard to gauge, but it's an interesting question nonetheless. Thank you for bringing that up.
Sorry, misunderstood the question then, because I thought the question was specifically, is there research on it, not whether it helps or not? Because I think we can all agree that it helps, but I don't know whether there has been specific research that can prove that scientifically. I mean, I think any teacher, we all think that it's important for the child to get that extra support. But as Mark said, it depends how that support is being given, when it's going to be phased out. And I think that would be a very interesting research project to put forward, maybe to some university students who are here doing their teachers training or something, to look into that, because I would like to know that. As a member of SEAC, I would like to know that, whether that has, and not just for children with learning disabilities, but I mean, if they wanted to do it for some other areas of speciality as well. Thank you.
Any further questions for question period? No. Okay, then moving on to 6.1, which would be the superintendent's report, and it's back over to Mark.
3 items that I included in my report to you this month. The first one, I thought you would be interested to see having over 70 new staff in the role of CERT or self-contained teacher may sound like a lot, but if I can remind you that we have, I don't know if we have 5,000 teachers across elementary and secondary, at least 4. So it's 70 new in the special education realm isn't an exceptionally large number. I think we had about the same last year as well. And so we provide them with a lot of professional development through the course of the year. So I just thought I'd share some of the topics that were part of that learning agenda last week that we, in our first session with those staff. So there were a number of sort of some big topic learnings that they engaged in, and also some breakouts and sort of a carousel that they have a choice to participate in. They were provided, even if they couldn't get to one of these sessions, they were provided with all the learning materials, slideshows, etc. as well. But that's not all of, but some of the topics that were as part of that learning that they participated in last week, and it continues through the year. Second item there is a bit of an update on the work we've been doing around scope and structure discussions for the work of social workers and our child and youth counselors, our CYCs. So that's been some ongoing dialogue of really trying to help ourselves understand what's the greatest need of our students and how best can our social workers and CYCs meet those needs. And really I'm trying to understand what are the the skills, the knowledge and skills that those staff bring to their schools that no one else can do. So we're really focusing in. So, for example, if a CYC brings that skill set of working with small groups of kids to work on social skills, for example, that's some specific work that they have training in doing. So how do we make sure we focus in on that kind of work so that they can really maximize their impact in a school? Likewise with social workers. So if they're working with a student in a family in terms of accessing community resources around, it could be anxiety or, other mental health needs, et cetera, that once again, we're focusing in on that work. So that kind of clarity we're trying to bring to it, because we see the need for some consistency across our schools. It's not always consistent. And we see a really, really high demand for the time and talents of these staff to the point where it's some pretty heavy workload for some. So we're trying to really define that to maximize the benefit. So those discussions we're narrowing in the work, but just wanted to let you know that that's ongoing, and we'll be reporting back to SEAC later this year on that. And then the third I'm highlighting for you there is the swimming program for life skills and CPP. We've been looking at this carefully in the last while, and this is a little bit with respect to the work that our staff do every day with our kids, and knowing the value of the swim programs, and that there's some big impact there for our kids. At the same time, we have some new expectations and some new standards that we have to meet. I think many parents are familiar with the tragedy that happened with the Toronto board in terms of a swimming accident and a student. I think it's two Junes ago now, I believe, was when that happened. And so there was quite a look done by the ministry, and you may also be familiar with OFIA. OFIA is the Ontario Physical and Health Education Association. So it's a body that sort of sets the standard for all of our physical activity, both curricular, within our regular classroom programs, but also extracurricular. So the things that happen outside of class in terms of sports and field trips and all those kinds of things. So they set all of our standards in terms of what our rules should be around training of staff, levels of supervision, types of activities that kids engage in, requirements for equipment. All those kinds of things are set by OFIA. And so OFIA, we're working with the province, so with the ministry, said we need to tune up our swim program requirements at all levels. And so they've just sent that out to school boards to implement. So that work is happening across all swimming activities that our students are involved in, but we're also looking at it with respect to CPP and life skills. So we know that some of our practices don't match, and so we've asked that schools for hopefully a short period of time put their swim programs on hold so that we can make sure that we align with the new expectations from OFIA. And once we've done that, and we can design a good program, make sure we have all the training and all those things in place, then we can look at resuming. So we've informed parents that we're doing a brief hold while we do that work. We have staff engaging in that work right now, and then we will be able to resume hopefully in the near future. So just informing you of that as tonight. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Trustee Collard.
Thank you. Today, that newsletter went out to parents, and I haven't received any questions about it from parents from my school, but I have a couple of questions regarding the physical therapy that students often benefit from with the swim program. Are we going to be replacing that with something that's land-based while the hold is on?
Yes, thanks. And we do mention in the letter that we will engage in activities within our school buildings that still provide that kind of, so staff when we're using some of the techniques that we've have been prescribed, and we've learned from our physical therapists for our students that they then take into the pool with them. Many of those occur already in the classrooms, so those kinds of things do it in other private spaces within the schools. So we'll continue to use some of those, but also work with the physiotherapist to say what other kinds of activities, exercises, stretching, all kinds of things that we do. What else can we be doing, knowing that the swimming is on hold for now? So those kinds of conversations go on between staff and those therapists to try and meet the needs of our kids.
Thank you very much.
I guess I'm next. I was going to ask originally how this came about, but you did explain that this is new guidelines from OFIA. Can you give us any idea approximately how long it'll take for that training and curriculum to be updated?
I can't say for sure. I can say at least a month or two. We have to pull, who we have working on this are teachers from life skills and CPP classes, our health and phys ed instructional program leaders are working with us, our own staff from student services. We also have a couple administrators from schools that have those programs involved as well, because we're looking at what do those standards say? Mm-hmm. What does that mean for things like the qualifications and swimming ability of our own staff, the level of supervision that has to be required, the amount of training and practice that has to occur for those students, even things like for whom is swimming appropriate or not, and is the risk appropriate or not. You can appreciate sort of the range of needs of our kids. Sure. So all of that is being examined, and then we are partners in providing this with our communities, because almost all of our pools are provided by our community partners, right? So if, for example, we're going to be working in one of our, let's say a pool here in Burlington, if we're at, sorry, I'm drawing a blank at the one at MMR, Angela Coughlin, thank you for that Angela Coughlin pool, then we want to be working with the city of Burlington to say, here are the activities and standards and supervision that we're looking for in the pool. What's our, what do we need from, I guess, from the city to do that? And what are the things that they're comfortable with and able to provide, and all those kinds of things. So we have to do some internal work first. Then we have to reach out to those community partners to say, please work with us in providing all, sort of helping us meet all these standards. In some areas, it'll be a tweaking. For some of them, it'll be a bigger change. Then we need to work with our employee groups and them understanding this is what we need our staff to be capable of, competent in. So what does that look like in terms of working with us employee groups to do that as well? So there is a chunk of work, and we know that our kids and families want to be in the water. We know that. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to move quick, but I'm just trying to sort of lay out for you some of the complexity of what's involved. So I'd say a couple months, I think, is fair to say to start.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Tammy, go ahead, please.
The letter went out to families with students in the life skills and CPP program. Would it be possible for members of SEAC to see that letter as well?
Certainly. Yeah, we can forward that after the meeting. I actually did a little bit of a cut and paste of the content into my item 3. So I'll send it, but you'll say, I think I've read this before. So, yeah. But yes, we'll do that.
Thank you. Lisa, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I wasn't familiar with the swimming program for life skills classes. Is it a pilot project? Is it something that's rolling out just for certain schools, or how will it roll out?
Right. So It hasn't been an expectation that all classes must attend, because that's looked different based on the students that are in that class. For some, it's more appropriate than others. What other activities go on in that school for that class? Sometimes, in terms of their phys ed and their physical activity that they do, sometimes it's appropriate or needed or a fit or not. So we haven't mandated it in that same way that we don't mandate really any of the actual activities that go on in any phys ed class. So you'll find in, pick any grade for any group of students. There's nothing in the phys ed curriculum that says students must learn to play basketball, for example, right? Or you must engage in track and field or whatever. What the curriculum does say is students need to learn, skills or engage in activities that improve their endurance, flexibility, strength and conditioning, eye-hand coordination, fair play, all those kinds of things. And how schools do it really varies, right? And by and large, I think that's a good thing because, in the one school where there's a big interest in playing soccer and they flourish in that program, great. And another one, they might be playing cricket or they will be doing basketball or whatever, right? So to meet the interests and needs of those kids, that's where it goes. So the same with the specifics in our life skills and CPP. We don't say thou shalt swim. It's certainly an option that those classes and students might engage in, they might not, just like a whole range of other things. Yep. So it's a choice of that school whether or not they'll engage in that and a whole range of other things. Okay.
Yeah, to give you an example, Lisa, I'm sure it's the same at MMR that it is at Bateman or similar because the school is actually attached to a community pool. The students can just walk right over there. So kids with mobility issues, wheelchairs and that sort of stuff can go inside the building over there. They've got lifts and all that to put the kids who can't walk into the water. I know with my son, for example, a couple of years ago, he was very timid about getting in the water at all and would just hang on to the shallow side. Now he'll jump into the deep end and swim around like a little fish. He just wears a little floaty and that's it. So it's been great physical and confidence building. So it is as much therapy as it is physical education as it is recreation.
With that being said, are there schools that will have the swim program where the pools are not attached to the schools, like it might be somewhere else in the community?
For sure. We actually have more that engage in a swim program off-site in another location than there are only a few spots where there's actually a pool attached. We even have some, like for example, at Georgetown, they have a pool, but it's not very accessible. So they choose instead to take their students to another community pool in Georgetown instead. They go off-site, the Gellert Center. So once again, it's really the choice of what that looks like within each community and the kind of access and how frequent and all those things are choices of that school, that class.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Diane, you're next.
Thanks, Mark, for that list of professional development you're providing for new certs. That's quite the list. I'm wondering, though, if in the new year, there's room for, if you don't already have it, on the list for some professional development around SEAC, like who we are, what we do, possibly room for many presentations from the support groups.
Sure, we'll take that back. I'm looking to Sean, who, the IPLs that work with Sean design and deliver this work. So I know that what learning opportunities could be provided outstrips the time, right? So there's lots and lots of need out there in terms of the learning for those staff. So certainly we'll put that on the list of possibilities. I know in the past we've had SEAC members, and I think yourself have gone to some of these learning sessions and offered, if you want to ask, call it a workshop or a carousel spot for staff to come to. Does that mean we're signing you up as an offer? But yeah, and I know that the feedback has been that's been valuable. So right. So yeah, so we'll put that on there, and if you don't mind, no promises at this point, just because that we really look at what are sort of the most urgent needs of staff and where's the fit, and so we'll certainly consider it.
Yeah, go ahead.
This has happened in the past, but it hasn't been happening regularly. So I'm wondering if we could ask again, the board psychologist or the psych ed consultants provide information around the local association when they have a diagnosis. So if they're diagnosing learning disabilities, that they provide in their recommendations to contact LDA Halton, or they, contact ABC or contact Down syndrome. I think it's helpful for parents. My immediate response is, because people come to us all the time and say, we didn't know you exist. And I'm thinking, well, if you've got a diagnosis of learning disabilities and you live in Halton, and if you go to Mr. Google and you put in learning disabilities in Halton, we're the top of the list. But that, for some reason, is not happening. So I think if our psychologist could put that recommendation in, it would be, for any association, would be great.
Yeah, so I'm going to look to Sean in terms of when we talk about the rollout of the working together document, that what information can we provide to parents when we first know that their child has a special need of some sort that we're trying to support, and, working together. What's all the information we should be trying to provide to parents? So I'd say our working together document is one part of that, but then the contact for the various associations is another part of that. So I think that when we look at the rollout of working together again, what else could be included will be part of that we think about. And it might be with it, or it might be through because sometimes, so for example, if we've done the assessment of that student and therefore are coming back with the identification, diagnosis, all that, that's maybe an easier one. But if it's an outside assessment, that outside psychologist might have information to provide. But if they're not going to get it that way, how can we make sure it still happens, right? So I think we have to look at all those pieces, and so I think we'll have to consider: are there maybe a list of associations with links that we're providing to parents and saying, this one's where we recommend you go, that kind of thing. So we'll consider that as well.
Okay, just one comment on that and a short question. Perhaps we could, and this is an idea we talked about ages ago when there was the old website and apparently nothing was possible, but even just a page on the special education section of the website that just links to all the associations that are SEAC members and others that we know of in the area, right? It'd be a simple, easy resource for people to point out, say, just go here and there's working together. There's everything you need all in one place. So
Thanks.
hopefully our web technology's gone that far.
I think so.
Yeah. Lastly, then, just a short question, a clarification on the swimming. And I may have just misunderstood the way you said it, but it sounded like this went out as a request to the schools to suspend their swimming. Did I understand that correctly? Or is it swimming is suspended?
Swimming programs are on a temporary hold.
Okay.
So I did send that information to schools in June, saying this is coming from the province and from us, therefore hold on this right now, and then want to make sure parents heard that as well, and that's why the letter went home this week.
Okay. Just because I know at least one school has sent out field trip sign-off forms for swimming.
Yeah. Heard that. We're
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're trying to make sure the information is well out there.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Mark. Next, 6.2, association reports. Do we have any? Dawn was first. You get to go first. Thank you.
Coming up on Sunday, October 14th, ABC is having a conference in Toronto at the Science Center. And so sign up is online. Happens to be the day after PIC, which I will talk about there.
Is that all done?
Yeah, I'll just send the link.
Okay, thank you.
It's such a short turnaround.
Yeah, and since you mentioned PIC, it's an excellent opportunity to open the floor to further volunteers to cover the PIC conference. Dawn has already offered. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I'm just going to warm up the idea. Maybe people will be ready to volunteer by the time it comes up rather than be picked for one. Picked, that's a joke. Diane, did you have something from LDH?
Yeah, yes, I did.
Go ahead, please.
October is Learning Disabilities Awareness Month. And typical of me, I forgot to bring some posters, but I did have posters emailed to you. Last week.
I got them by mail.
I thought I emailed them. Okay. I didn't personally do it. I asked to have it done, so I will check.
Yeah.
That I wanted one sent to your department so that you could print it off and put it up in your office. Because we don't have the money to print a poster to send out to every school, which we have done in the past. But we just can't afford it.
This is for our department.
Yes.
I don't think I saw it, so
Okay.
maybe it didn't.
But if you could possibly forward it to all the schools, that would
For sure.
That would also be
We just need to get it first.
appreciated very much. All right. Yes, that's one of them. Mhm.
So,
There's several.
sorry, that
for
was
all
copied
age
to
groups.
SEAC back on the September 19th.
Sure. Send to us one more time.
Lorna sent it to us on the 19th.
Oh, very good.
I sent it to you?
Yeah. I know it's small print, but is it 3 attachments for your information?
There are several posters because
No.
they have various age groups.
Right. So we share them out to
So
SEAC,
there's-
but
Okay, so there's one for secondary and one for elementary and et cetera. Okay.
we will forward those to
All right.
schools.
My next item is our conference date is March 21st, 2019, and will be held in the same location, the Burlington Holiday Inn. And we're just in the process of setting a conference plan, but we're really excited of some of the things that we have been able to confirm. And last but not least, this is not official yet, but we may have a new name coming up because we are opening a satellite in Hamilton. So we will become Learning Disabilities Association of Halton, Hamilton.
Thank you, Diane. Any other association reports? No. I would add that, and I think you'd mentioned this earlier, LDH is hosting an open house meeting for all school trustees and candidates this Thursday, 7 to 8:30 at 560 Guelph Line. Next, 6.3, trustee reports. Trustee Collard, go ahead.
Thank you. I left one of these on each of your workstations. It's about our first annual Human Rights Symposium. This year's theme is Indigenous Realities. Every year we will have a different theme because we have several equity lenses and we want to make sure that we rotate through the lenses. If you are interested in attending this, there is information about how you can register online, and if the cost is a concern, there's also the email address at the bottom to please forward any concern you have about registering and paying for the fee. I hope we will be able to see many of you there. It's going to be an absolutely amazing day. We're having not just Jessie Wente, whose picture is on these cards, but we're also having Susan Aglukark, and she's going to be a phenomenal keynote speaker.
Thank you, Amy.
I have some things to add to that. If you...
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Aldershot's iSTEM open house will take place on Tuesday, November 13th, and more information will be provided at a later date. Tomorrow at the board meeting, Associate Director Vogue will be presenting the EQA updates, and Superintendent Blackwell will give her PAR implementation update as well. And tomorrow night, we'll present the first set of Inspire Awards for this school year, including Principal Jane Lewis for her work in special education and student services. Thank you.
It's good to hear. She deserves the recognition. Thank you. Any other trustees?
Nominated by all her former staff, which is very nice.
Good. Committees and other reports. Oh, we're talking about PIC again. Do you want to go ahead, Dawn? Perhaps someone's ready to volunteer.
And there's also a video we want to show. Probably everybody who's got students in the board, you all got an email today that has this video attached. It's really quite neat because that's been one of the concerns from parents over umpteen years saying, well, we don't know what a PIC is. And therefore, when they get an email that says something about a PIC conference, they don't even bother to go further and to open the email, look and see what topics. So this is a fabulous little 2-minute video that was attached to the email. So it's coming up on the 13th at Garth Webb, and SEAC has a table, and it would be really wonderful to get some help because Jason's not there to sit at it all day, and I have other things I have to do, so I'm going to be setting up and tearing down and popping back and forth, but I can't be there at the table all day. I'm not in charge of tables this year, but have you gotten the email back? Okay.
The Halton District School Board is proud to be hosting the Parent Involvement Conference. This day-long event brings together parents, guardians, and educators to learn how the educational system works, provide an opportunity to give important feedback about what we do, and to have a whole lot of fun. This year's theme, Imagining Possibilities, Inspiring Success, will focus on building global competencies for our children. Our keynote speaker this year is Mmr Mac, an expert on using digital platforms for both work and play. After the keynote, Mmr will be doing a Q&A where we will look forward to hearing from you.
Hi, I'm Mmr Mac, and I'm looking forward to speaking at your Parent Involvement Conference. I'll be kicking off the day bright and early, talking about what it takes to succeed in our high-tech world. As a busy mom, entrepreneur, and someone who loves technology, I hope to set the stage to help you adapt to a new way of living, working, and playing.
Teachers, instructional program leaders, administrators, and experts from our community will lead breakout sessions for parents, guardians, and staff. Workshops will include collaborative problem solving, financial literacy resources, robotics in the classroom, digital citizenship, homework help, technology education, science, technology, engineering, and math, and information about a new iSTEM program coming to Aldershot High School in 2019, and so much more. Research has shown that the involvement of parents and guardians in their children's education has a positive impact on student learning and helps create a sense of community at school. That's why we feel conferences like PIC are great opportunities to network, share ideas, and offer input on important educational areas.
The PIC conference has grown in popularity since it began 11 years ago. We feel this annual event is such a wonderful way for our parents and guardians to come together, learn different perspectives from educators, and just as importantly, from each other.
We look forward to seeing you at Garth Webb Secondary School in Oakville on Saturday, October 13th. Register for the conference at the link at the bottom of the screen. The Halton District
Yeah, it's a great video. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So, I guess I'll try to speak to whomever at PIC and see if I can get the two tables together, because I know we've done that in the past, at least spotted for each other. I think I've been to all of them, but I can't. My wife's out of town, and there's no way I can bring my son and have him sit there all day. That wouldn't work. So. Yeah. So there really isn't a whole lot to it. We have a table. We have one of those stand-up banners that's just SEAC and the special education logo, and some literature on the table, and people just come by and ask questions. Sometimes it's simple matters of clarification, or they need directions to the washroom. You don't know. But it's usually pretty simple, and parents are there to learn, and they have simple basic questions about how do I navigate this and how do I get better support for my child, which is really what we're all about here anyway. So appreciate LDH offering to cover. Any one of you've got a spare hour or two to help out Dawn that day, please let her or myself know, and we'll get an award or something. I don't know how that works. Piece of paper with your name on it. But anyway, we would really appreciate someone coming out for that. You have a question, Leah? Or a comment? Go ahead.
Thank you. I was just hoping for those who don't have kids in the system, if you wouldn't mind forwarding that great video. That's fabulous. And I think that I'm really happy to see the PIC group who put that together. That is probably one of the biggest questions people ask is, what is PIC? So thank you. I will share that out on all my media.
Next, Accessibility Coordinating Committee. Michelle, go ahead.
Thank you. So the next Accessibility Coordinating Committee meeting has been changed from October 11th to the 10th, same time in the small boardroom here at JWS. The committee is working on a draft of the accessibility plan review for this fall, and they're also reviewing the accessibility rules for educational institutions and working on populating the HDSP-related policy and administration procedures document that addresses individuals with disabilities and their needs by department. That's it. Thank you.
Special education review. Normally that's Denise. She's not here. Would you be able to speak to that, Mark?
We haven't had another meeting since our last SEAC, so no updates since then.
Okay. Thank you. Next is Equity and Inclusive Education Advisory Steering Committee.
We haven't had a meeting yet.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Working together document. I think we just heard everything we're going to hear about that. Thank you, Sean. Last MMR Lpb integration update. Our next meeting is November 6th at the MMR library from 4 to 5:30 p.m. So no updates since then. But then on the other hand, I haven't read about anything in the newspaper, so I'm assuming everything's going well. It certainly looks like it is going well. So our next agenda has not been written yet. Do you recall what we talked about? No. Apparently neither of us remember what we've got planned for next week, or next meeting rather. We'll certainly let you know. It will be, well, that'll be our last, right? Yeah. So we have a few ideas that we have not finalized yet, but we'll certainly let everybody know. We will also conclude with a social function at our usual place, I assume, which is Gator Ted's. Because that's usually where we end up anyway. So we'll try to get everything wrapped up before midnight. That way, you know, we won't be here for too long. So with that, unless there's anything else, I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn. Trustee Chowdhury, Lou seconding. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, so carried. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you in November. Oh, and we need someone to help Dawn at PIC. I just thought I'd throw that one in there in case you didn't catch it.